Start? Cool. Hello. Can everyone? Oh, bloody hell. It's loud. You won't need the headphones if I'm speaking out loud, will you? Bloody hell. Right. This is like a really, really bad silent disco, isn't it? It's what it reminds me of. Just everyone sat down at a disco. It's awful. So I'm going to talk to you today about post-purchase customer experience. And if I'm honest, I'm slightly nervous. It's the first time I've talked about customer experience and e-commerce ever publicly before. And the other thing is the topic or the way I'm going to take the topic is relentlessly boring. Because we're in a room full of people that are trying to sell us tech and sell the things that you need as a business to run a really strong customer-centric business and to outperform your competitors. And I'm going to advocate that actually you can do an awful lot with quite a lot less than what maybe you think that you need. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to go down particularly well in this environment. So we'll see how we get on. Shoestrings, not particularly exciting either, but I wanted to focus on it because as a business owner and someone that's run our business now for the last 4 years, we find constantly that there's way more out there and we're sold way more than we can possibly afford. And then you're kind of told, well, if you don't do these things, and you don't have this tech, you don't have this software, or whatever it is, or the version of what's new at the moment, that you can't possibly compete. And for us, that's not been the case. And actually, it's been some brilliant basics that have got us through and kind of consistently over the last 3 or 4 years meant that we've had like quite an outstanding level of service. So to put a bit of context around that, for the last 3 years, our company's maintained a net promoter score of around 90, and we've consistently been the highest rated in our industry. This year, actually, we're quite fortunate. This evening, we're shortlisted for the e-commerce team of the year. So hopefully, we'll be award-winning by the end of the night as well. We'll find out. What's probably more impressive is over that time, for at least a year of it, we were running our entire operation out of 2 garages. One that used to be an abattoir, and the other used to be home to a donkey. And that was where we were running the industry's leading decorating supplies company from. So it kind of gives you a sense of what can be achieved if you put your mind to it. I joined the business 4 years ago with my wife Helen, basically anything that I do know now about e-commerce, which I don't think is very much, but it's generally from big mistakes that I've made. Helen's favourite thing to remind me of is on my first week when I fired our paid ads freelancer. I decided I knew better, so I went in all guns blazing, and then in 12 hours I lost us thousands of money of pounds, not knowing how to set ads up, and that's the barometer. And Helen will tell you that it's only got worse since. So today it's highly unlikely in the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes that I'm going to change your world with like profound insights about customer experience and post-purchase customer experience. But there is one thing that I really do want to get across to you today, and that is that do not underestimate the power of getting the small basic things right and doing it consistently, okay? We designed our business around customer experience because we sell other people's products, okay? There is nothing else unique about it, so we said we're going to differentiate through the service that we provide our customers, and that's kind of like our superpower, that's kind of what we focused on. And I think what I'm going to talk you through over the next bit of time is actually how that's been manifested by doing those basics as opposed to necessarily investing vast sums in anything outlandish, you know? So the conference's theme is about the future of e-commerce as well, and I think when I think about post-purchase customer experience, the expectations are so high now, it is relentless, and it's a constant challenge for us for sure. And what's even more difficult now is that when we're trying to differentiate through that experience, how do you do that when those standards are so high? And there's 3 kind of key fundamentals that have worked well for us and that have cost us next to nothing that I'm going to kind of talk through and focus on over the next few minutes. So the first one is getting people on the bus. So this is really about leadership, culture, and setting standards, having everyone on the same page to deliver a customer-first approach. I'm not a leadership or culture coach, but my point is that not having customer experience part of those two things is a gateway to not delivering on what you need, okay? And our approach naturally as we've grown has changed over time, but the two key things that we focused on constantly is about the language we use to explain to our team what we want from them, and then the standards that we set and enforce and consistently reinforce with them. So an example of how we talk in our small decorating business is we talk about how we want to be the best in the world the best, it's really good that I remember that, isn't it? The best place in the world to buy decorating supplies is basically what we talk about. And we talk about that every week, about how we're going to go from where we are. And we talked about that when we were still running out of a shed that used to belong to a donkey. And we'll talk about it and continue to talk about it until we get there. And the other thing that we talk about an awful lot is how are we delivering for our customers, and are we delivering on our sort of mantra, which is we will never let them down. That's not to say we're not going to get things wrong, but when we get it wrong, how are we fixing it and what are we doing to address it. That can, that's the talking bit, but obviously then setting the standards is super important as well. And it's got to be followed by action, and me and Helen kind of like get involved in that an awful lot at the size of business that we are, but we kind of live those standards, okay? So the expectations we set for our fulfillment and our customer experience teams are obviously aligned with what we put out there in front of them, but we do not fail on those, ever. So some examples. We've driven till 4 a.m. to get to London to deliver paint to customers. We've gone down the country to pick up packaging because our packaging supplier's wagon broke down. We couldn't get our orders out, so we went and got it. We've done other really stupid stuff that's escaping me at the moment. But just basically making it happen at all costs and any cost. And I think those things really cost you nothing but time, and actually make a massive difference, and your customers will appreciate them, because again, we're talking about those margins of where you can make a difference. If 90% of the time everything's running well, it's that 10% that you need to sort out, and actually you can make a massive gains in there. I'm just going to grab the screen. Sorry about that. I guess the message is that actually filling in those gaps and getting involved and setting the standards kind of can make a big difference. In our business, if the orders aren't finished for the day, no one leaves. So amazingly, they're always done on time, so everyone can leave. Our customer experience team, we have no unread emails in our mailbox when we leave on a day. If there are, they stay and they make sure that there's nothing urgent that needs to be done. And that's kind of the barometer of like where we set our standards and how highly we deal with things. You know, we get emails as consumers from people from like the places we shop saying, "Oh, we'll be back to you in 3 to 5 days." We're annoyed with ourselves if we're not back to people within 3 hours. You know, and that's kind of the difference in where we set things up. Right, the next bit is, again, this title's a bit odd, but it's about being relentlessly boring. So this is probably more about my feelings towards this section than it is about the content of it, but because it's all about processes and systems fundamentally, and as we've scaled and grown, there's absolutely no way you can deliver a best in industry, best in class customer experience if you haven't got really embedded, repeatable processes and systems that your people can understand and become experts in. And you need them to become experts because once they're empowered and they know that they can make decisions for you and for your customers, you end up having much faster response times, you can get things dealt with where there have been problems, and ultimately deliver a much better customer experience to your end users. And the power of that's unbelievable. So like, we've got a picture, if you went on our website today, one of the first reviews you'd see is that someone's got an absolutely destroyed parcel with paint everywhere. It's a nightmare. But we've got a 5-star review for that. So, did an awful job, delivered it badly, had to send it again, we were late, but we got 5 stars. And the reason for that is because within an hour of finding out, we'd replaced, sent out, and dealt with the problem and made sure it was dealt with. And there are companies that spend millions doing much bigger stuff than what we are, who would never ever be able to be as agile and address that. And it's a really good opportunity to kind of get ahead, I think. So the other part of that is about sort of standardizing your offering as well. So if you've got repeatable processes, your people know what they're doing and you know what you're doing, you can put that out onto your website, and then obviously kind of make sure that the customer's expectations are set and you're delivering to those constantly. So for us, we set exact days for when everyone's parcels are going to arrive, and we hit that 99.8% of the time. So kind of like what the kind of like standards it can give you to help. If there's one thing I would highlight to be really, really boring about, it would be the customer engagement and dealing with the exceptions. Again, I talked about the time the 90% of everything goes fine, it's the 10%. That 10%, how you communicate with the customer, how you engage with them on the problem and front it up and let them know what's going on, for us, consistently has made a massive difference between a really angry customer who's going to detract from your NPS and be upset with your company and not shop again, and someone that gets it as a human that you know something's gone wrong, and that's kind of how we see it. So do the boring bits, otherwise cracks will appear. Right, the last sort of section I'm going to talk about is listen and learn. These sections keep getting more and more exciting, don't they? Listen and learn. So this is all about feedback loops, though. Okay, so feedback loops for us, predominantly there are two: customer feedback loops and our fulfillment operations feedback loops. Okay, so customer feedback, reviews, obviously, but email, phone calls, WhatsApp, wherever it comes from, we will collect information from all of that, and our team are trained to do so that anything that stands out or anything that's a bit different, they'll jump on it, and we have a review quite regularly to go through, okay, so what are our customers saying about us, where are there opportunities to improve, or where are we doing great, and actually we can build on that and move that forward in the future, and that actually makes up a huge amount of like our development landscape and what we plan to do with the website. We kind of have like obviously strategic priorities and goals that we're moving towards, but the bits that are getting fixed in between are generally led by that customer feedback loop in terms of what's happening on the front end of our site, and it's unbelievable to me how often big companies miss that. So I did some consulting with another e-commerce company recently, and they said that you were sort of looking at what's going on in their customer journey and what's happening with their retention. So I sat and read their reviews for an evening, and I didn't really need an evening, to be honest. In about 5 minutes, you could tell the three problems they had were they didn't tell their customers when they were going to deliver orders. When they were delivering orders, they were putting the wrong stuff in those orders. And then when customers tried to complain about the number one and number two, they couldn't get hold of them because they were too busy dealing with one and two to fix the things that they'd already got wrong. And it's like this vicious cycle. And it's like, so then they're in the process of having a strategic change program to have a whole new tech stack, do everything. I had a look at it the other week. They still don't have delivery dates for when they're going to deliver stuff. It's like, it's mad. It's like your customers are telling you what you need. Just do it. It's like, it's really straightforward. So yeah, hopefully that gives a little bit of an insight into like, you know, maybe how not to do it, but also how powerful that feedback loop is. I'm going to take a drink, sorry. So the other part I mentioned, the other feedback loop was fulfillment. So we measure everything that's core to what our customers need. So we ship paint. Damages are a really big problem for us, so we track damages. Getting 70% of everything we send out is custom, so we make it before we send it out. So we track what our packing accuracy is and make sure that we're there. And we've got other ones as well, what our refund value is, what our returns rates are, everything. But with that data, we have an all-hands team meeting every Friday where I have all of the guys in the warehouse, all of the guys in the office, and we stand around that whiteboard and we talk about every single point. Why did that damage happen? Why did that not go on time? Why have we let that customer down? Why have we not got the color that this customer wants? And then that manifests itself into an action plan of, right, well, how are we going to do all those things that we didn't do this time? And that's a weekly cycle that happens in our business every single time. Again, that feedback loop is, the data's there, it's just capturing it, and we don't have anything fancy to do that. We use Excel spreadsheets, or Google Sheets, and Zendesk. And from that, we can get all of this information to enable us to make decisions on how to move things forward. And 9 times out of 10, those things don't need massive investment to do it. It's just being aware of what it is that your customers need and where you're maybe not performing at the level you want. Our packing accuracy is 99.8%. So, you know, like in a week, we might send out 1 or 2 things wrong. So out of, you know, a few thousand things that we send out. So that's sort of our operational feedback loop, customer feedback loop. It's super important and free. So the last thing I'll mention on sort of feedback loops is shop your own website. That's something that we forget to do quite regularly, and every time we do it, we're like, that is shit. You know, like there's always something that we've gone, oh, how are we not seeing that? And how have we got away with customers not having a go at us for so long about it? But it's so important, and we encourage everyone to do it, so you get a different perspective. The guys that merchandise our website will naturally shop things that they think they can see and understand and know about, and the guys that are doing the customer experience, customer service side will do something different, and the guys in the warehouse pay lip service to it and try not to do it at all, but you know, we try. So yeah, shop your own website. We always find great data out of that, and it's really important. So almost at the end, guys, bear with me, the end of the silent disco. So I'll wrap up by saying I appreciate these aren't, you know, be boring, listen and learn, and get on the bus are not the most exciting subject matters you'll probably hear today, but if you're a company that's scaling, that wants to do things, you're on a budget, and you want to get to a point where you're outperforming, you know, £100+ million companies at their own game, and you know, our industry is 1.5 billion. We're like this, you know, but we do better than all of them based on, you know, the key metrics that I've talked about. Then those are the things that have made the difference for us in our experience. Okay. I'm going to make hopefully a not too bold opinion out there that there are way too many people that jump onto the next thing way too quickly without having those basic and fundamentals in place. And that creates what I call leakage, which is that you won't really see it, but you'll be having, you know, detractors from your customer experience, or passive customers who probably won't return, or you'll have, you know, like a difficult time convincing people to come back to your site despite having all this great tech. A classic example I've got of that is where I was getting sold a loyalty scheme and discounts on my next order, but they'd failed to deliver the first order, but hadn't told me they were going to fail to deliver the first order because they decided that wasn't an important part of their process. You know, it's just mad stuff like that to look out for. So I'm going away. So the final bit I'll say then is that the super exciting bit of all of this is that you can, regardless of your operations, size, budget, resources, it is possible to make really big inroads and to improve your customer experience with very little and make a very big difference. And so I hope that's been of some use to you all. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I will take questions.